Dear friends, I'm honored to introduce you Professor Akademik Adrianov, who is the member of Russian Academy of Sciences, and he is a prominent comparative morphologist and specialist in systematics of animals, particularly of invertebrates. Professor Adrianov is alumnus of Moscow University, actually graduated from Moscow University the year I entered it, 1989. And after that, made a remarkable scientific career, authoring very many papers, monographs, and textbooks, manuals, so in various aspects of theoretical, fundamental, and practical zoology, ecology, and marine biology. And I will not now list all the administrative capacities of Professor Adrianov, because otherwise we won't end this lecture ever. So, but it's a very good opportunity for us now to listen to the very original source of top world level, first class world level research. So.
Thank you very much, Andrei Vladimirovich. Dear colleagues, this huge water world and endless bottom area with various landscapes are filled with life, from viruses, the largest marine creatures on the globe, whales, and from the surface to the heart of depth. Nevertheless, the world ocean is still much less investigated, even as compared with a near airspace already visited by more than 600 astronauts, cosmonauts. Currently, only 11 pilots and scientists have submerged as kilometers, including crew of the Chinese Shenzhen. Scientists even don't know and still have no agreement how much biological resources we actually can sustainably take off from the ocean floor because of incomparable calculation of these fish biomasses in the deep sea, from 20 to about 15 billion tons. Based on the last total solar scanning of the Mesopelagic period, just Mesopelagic is a pretty thin area between 200 meters and 1,000 meters. Based on this total solar scanning, potentially available supplies of marine bioresources for global fishing could be remarkably increased at least twice to provide enough food for growing population on the earth. Approximately to feed one citizen of the globe, we need about 1 hectare of agricultural area. You know, 1 hectare is 100 part of 1 square meter. On the earth, now available only 5 billion hectares. 8 billion citizens. The only way to feed growing human population is to more practically use and explore the huge biological resources of the world ocean. Before we introduce you some new results on biodiversity and diversity of deep sea ecosystems in the Northwest Pacific, let's find a definition of term biodiversity. What it means. You can see the definition here. I will not repeat the definition, but I will give some comments of levels of biodiversity. First of all, it's a most common level, species diversity. And the species issues. How many species we have on the globe or in every ecosystem? Next one, phylogenetic or taxonomic diversity. What taxa of different creatures we have? Next one, morphological diversity. You know, all living creatures differ from each other by external morphology and by internal morphology of anatomy. Ecological diversity, diversity of ecosystems, genetic diversity, biochemical diversity, and also diversity of ancient organisms in geological past. According to some estimations, there are globally about 10 times as many terrestrial and freshwater species as the marine species of eukaryotic organisms. According to other estimations, marine species diversity is thought to be about only 15% of global biodiversity. Thus, this ratio truly reflects a real number of marine and terrestrial species on the globe. In my opinion, definitely not. The real number of deep sea species and diversity of deep water marine ecosystem have been greatly underestimated. According to the official database, the World Register of Marine Species, only less than 300,000 marine species have been described today, while the total number of already described species, you know, is about 2 million. At the same time, phylogenetic diversity, I mean diversity of high taxa, in the world ocean are much more than in terrestrial and freshwater environments. Nearly all metazoophylla, metazoic multicellular organisms, can be found in marine environments, while only half of them we can find in freshwater or terrestrial environments. In current zoology, only 2 phyla now we cannot find in the sea, onychoforms and Macrognathzoa, but their ancestors are also marine taxa, so no exclusions. I would like to introduce some results of our deep-water expeditions in the Northwest Pacific just within the last decade to show you a real deep-sea biodiversity. And then later I will introduce you also some results of our deep-water expeditions with heavy robotics to describe diversity of abyssal ecosystems. Look at this slide, please. There are areas of 4 Russian-German joint expeditions arranged by our Scientific Research Center of Marine Biology in Vladivostok. First one is the deepest area in the Sea of Japan. I think you can easily recognize this map.
Second area is the deepest area of the Sea of Okhotsk. Next one, abyssal plain near the Ural-Kamchatka Trench. And next one is the huddle area of Ural-Kamchatka Trench up to 9.5 kilometer depth. It's a huddle area in the ocean. Alongside the deep water transects, several thousand species were collected, more than 50% of them being new for science. Even in the abyss, representatives of 22 phyla of metazoan creatures were collected, and more than 60% of all species were new for science. These results are summarized in a number of special volumes of journal Deep Sea Research. These expeditions of our national center have provided about half of all Russian publications on the abyssal marine biology. It means abyssal, it's a depth 5 or 6 kilometer depth. But if we calculate all papers on deep sea researches, not only biology, but also geology, oceanology, China now is a leading country in the world, according to estimation of Web of Science publication. So my compliment to my Chinese colleagues. Interestingly, that very similar results on high level of deep sea biodiversity were previously obtained in some other deep sea areas, also located in very productive regions of the warm ocean, for instance, in the Northwest Atlantic. You can see results of a pioneering research in this field, but it was made for the depth about 1.5 to 2.5 kilometer. It's a glacial slope. It's not a abyssal plate, it's a glacial slope. But you can see that also more than 50% of all collected species were designated as new for science. We agree with the main conclusions of these researchers that a real deep sea species richness could be estimated as not less than 10 million species. So, a huge number of new species of different marine organisms collected in the deep sea is still waiting to be described. In our collection we have many thousand and thousands of new species. But we have a real problem. Even at the modern rate of description, we need about 100 years just to describe next 2 million species. If so, the real biodiversity on the globe, at least species diversity, species richness, will never be described. We should realize it never been described. Will never be described. But why we should continue to inventory the global biodiversity, also in the deep sea? Why we should spend a lot of money to collect new species, arrange new expeditions? There are several reasons. First one, marine ecosystems is a giant reservoir of unique medicinal molecules with higher degree of chemical diversity than on the land. Over 30,000 natural compounds were isolated and identified from various marine organisms. Deep sea ecosystems are extreme and unusual habitats causing the emergence of new structures of organic compounds. with a high biological activity. Deep sea organisms have adopted their biochemical mechanisms for survival under extreme conditions and have a great potential for inducing primary and secondary metabolic pathways to create structurally unique metabolites. However, they now account for only about 2% of all known natural compounds of marine origin. At the same time, about 76% of all compounds isolated from deep sea organisms have biological activity, and almost half of them shows cytotoxicity against a number of human cancer cell lines. The products isolated from deep water specimens show high anti-tumor, anti-proliferative, and antibiotic activities. Data on these compounds isolated from deep water creatures collected in our expeditions in the Northwest Pacific are summarized in several pretty fresh reviews, and I would recommend them for your attention. You can find in that papers all information about potential medicals from the ABC. Also, deep water organisms are new source of some unique polyunsaturated fatty acids, promising new functional food and drugs. About 50 new unique polyunsaturated fatty acids were discovered in the Northwest Pacific within the last 15 years in our marine expeditions. Current data on test results, data on new lipids and fatty acids found in deep sea creatures are summarized in that reviews. I would also recommend for your attention, if you have special interest, what polyunsaturated acids can be found in deep water creatures and how to use these chemical compounds for new functional drug, functional food, or drugs, to also may read these reviews. Far Eastern Reef occupy a huge water area in the Northwest Pacific and play a very important role in the economy of the Russian Federation. Up to 80% of fish and seafood in our country are caught in the deep and adjacent waters. Far Eastern seas demonstrate a great variety of deep water ecosystems. Some of them being unique in terms of biodiversity and bioresources. Here, there are about 50 deep sea coral gardens, more than 100 seamounts and volcano, both sleeping and active volcano, deep sea canyons, hydrothermal vents, cold methane seeps, abyssal plains, and tidal drenches. I would like to show you some new data on this ecosystem to illustrate why it's so important to study the habitats. The west slope of the Sea of Japan is cut by many canyons, which are submerged ancient riverbed. The Great Gammo's Canyon is about 3 kilometers wide and stretched from 100 to 2,000 meters depth. It has a U-shaped profile and the wall from 25 to 85 degrees. It's so-called sediment drag to bring accumulated organic matter from the shelf area to the deep, thus providing conditions for rich deep water creatures. The walls, because of huge food supplies, there is a very rich bottom fauna, including, for instance, very large spoonworms you can see on these pictures. Many of these pictures are really unique, and we got it because of high robotics with high definition of video and photo systems. Many of these pictures still unpublished, so you have a chance to watch it maybe the first. The walls of the canyon is covered with dense settlements of brachiopods, sea lilies, and large deep water corals. The west continental slope of the Sea of Japan is very steep, and deepest part of the sea is also situated to the seashore. That helps to bring organic matter from the shelf area to the abyss. On this photo, you can see unbelievable picture. You can see green leaves of seagrass, Zastera, green leaves for photosynthesis. At the depth more than 3 kilometers. It's impossible. Because there is deep snow, and these grass pieces of marker algae move alongside this deep snow from shelf area to the abyss of the Sea of Japan, to the depth more than 3 kilometers. You also can see a lot of small white spots. It's crustaceans, isopods. And these small crustaceans, mysids, it's a huge food supply for many commercially valuable species of fish and larger invertebrates. It is even more unbelievable picture. You know, squids swim in the water column. Everybody knows. Swim, not sitting at the sea floor, and never burrow into the sediments. You can see squids sitting on the sea floor, and some of them also sitting in burrows. So, don't believe your eyes. Squids never sit in burrows and holes. If you say this fact at the exam of zoology, so I don't know, maybe teachers will estimate good your answer. We also faced another big problem. In the Far East and in the Northwest Pacific, some unique deep sea ecosystems are situated at the areas of potential seabed mining of deposits of polymetallic nodules, cobalt-rich ferro-manganese rusts, and polymetallic sulfides, including rare earth elements. Also, some fragile deep sea ecosystems like coral gardens, sponges, meadows, deep water coral reefs are also situated in the areas of active long-line fishing and bottom trawling that can also damage the ecosystems. What to do? What is our choice? Fishing, mining, or protecting the area of future generation. On this map, we show some investigated deep water areas in the North Pacific. I think you can recognize this map, all areas on this map, and also what mineral resources we can find in that areas. There is a increase in demand of cobalt and rare earth elements for electronic industry. This iPhone, all of us have in your pockets, contain more than 30 elements, including about 7 grams of cobalt. Supplies of cobalt on the globe in the sea, much more, about 60 times more than cobalt supplies on the land. Now you can see some calculation how many resources of some metals we have in the deep, and also content of these metals in rock, also more than content of this metal on the land. There you can see a real picture. We use special robotics to collect this mineral resources from the deep sea. Huge diggers, combines, underwater trackers already can collect minerals to the depth about 5 kilometers. And you can see that this robotics and bottom trawling can fly in deep sea landscapes. What's happened after these robotics? They collect minerals or do trawling outside the bottom. Also, the choice is very difficult. What to do? Mining, fishing, or protecting these landscapes for future generations. I would like to show you unique ecosystem of the active marine volcano P in the Bering Sea. It's a real hotspot of biodiversity with complicated vertical zonation on the mountain slope. At the same time, this volcano contains large reserves of polymetallic nodules, of polymetallic sulfides, or polymetallic sulfides. In Russia, we have probably much better one time to see something by your own eyes than 100 times to hear about it from somebody. So I would suggest to submerge at this place to see many things by your own eyes. Red line on the slope of volcano show transect of our heavy ROV from the depth more than 4 kilometers, about 4,300 meters, to the top of volcano. Very beautiful picture. At the foothill of volcano in the Commodore Basin, at depth 4,200, 4,300 meters depth, we found countless herds of slowly pasturing sea cucumbers, Volga and scotoplanus. Scotoplanus, as a Latin name, mean errant in darkness. The density of 15 specimens per square meter. Sea cucumbers of this size, not too much small. It's a huge supply of sea cucumbers. At slightly less depth, on the foothill Colga and Scataplanus become replaced by other sea cucumbers, much larger Phyllobacteres and really huge sea crapotes, up to 40 centimeters long. This sea cucumber, very similar to huge caterpillar, up to 40 centimeters in length. Hard and soft octocorallia, various sponges, sea lilies, tunicates from local settlements on hard bottom, a range so-called deep water coral gardens, coral meadows, and so on. For instance, these specimens of Paragorgia coral could be up to 2.5 and 3 meters high. So if you swim between these trees, you feel yourself like in the forest. But the deep is about 3 or 4 kilometers. Also some interesting specimens. Spacious area with soft sediments and depths 1.5 kilometer depths are covered with numerous cornworms. This Detricophagous worms seems to be food resource for red-tailed fish. Red spots are jellyfish Bentacodon, usually settle on the bottom. Also, animals keep energy, not necessary to swim. If quite enough food, you can see and keep energy. One species of one cornworm was described and named in honor of Academician A.V, who also was here as a lecturer. He is a head of the Department of Invertebrate Zoology at Moscow State University. On the slope at 800-500 meter depths, again, there are large spots of soft corals formed by large specimens of Anthomastus, looks like a huge mushroom. While more shallow, hard slope is totally covered with corals zoantarians, small coral zoantarians with a huge density, up to 500 specimens per square meter. So what you see a real coral reef, but not in shallow water. It's a deep water, real coral reef. Near the top, volcano shows hydrothermal activity, forming chimney-like structures, gushing thermal fluids. Hard bottom is covered with bacterial mats. Mollusks and different crustaceans inhabiting this area harbor hemautotrophic symbiotic bacteria, methanotrophic or theotrophic. The group of marine volcanoes in this area of the Bering Sea also harbor large supplies of variable polymetallic sulfides and would be interesting for industrial mining. At the same time, this is the northernmost hydrothermal land found in the Pacific Ocean. It's a real hotspot of deep sea biodiversity, showing very various vertical zonation. Also, the big volcano, I already said that big volcano is a northernmost point in the Pacific Ocean with hydrothermal activity. In this area, in the west side of the Bering Sea, we also found northernmost cold sea in the Pacific, situated slightly more to north at the Kamchatka and Chukchi slope of the Sea of Japan. So two hotspots, the northernmost, thermal, hydrothermal vents, and northernmost cold sea area in the Pacific. In this area of cold methane seeps, we found very spacious bacterial mats carried by burrowing sea urchins who feed these bacteria on the bacterial mats. So you can see huge density of cartilage burrowing sea urchins. Another mountain ecosystem, which also harbors huge, really huge supplies of valuable minerals, and at the same time currently used for active fishing, is the Emperor chain in the Northwest Pacific. This chain is a reach of submerged volcanic mountains and gyres. Volcanic tuff on these gyres are covered with strong ferromanganese cobalt-rich crusts, up to 34 millimeters. If you have crust just 10 millimeters, it's ranking for industrial mining. So it makes these ridges very attractive for future commercial seabed mining. At the same time, these underwater ridges, mountains, and trenches are very important by geographical boundaries in the deep sea. And their biota is usually characterized by high level of endemism. If you can find some species on one volcano, you can find much different species on the next volcano. So very high level of deep water endemism. You can see that there's tuff and crusts covered with beautiful coral gardens and sponge meadows, attracting numerous fish. Most of these fishes, you can see, are commercially valuable species. We already fishing using long line methods. This international region of Northwest Pacific is an important fishing area for several countries, including Russia. But only long-line fishing methods may be permitted in this area to save these unique deep-water coral and sponges communities. You can see some pictures. I should say that we have very good collaboration with our Chinese colleagues from the Institute of Oceanology in Tsingtao to study underwater mountains in the West Pacific. We have, you can see, we have different areas of special concentration of our efforts. But regularly, at least before epidemic situation, we arrange joint meetings to share our experience and compare our scientific results. The Northwest Pacific is a huge water area, and we harmoniously and practically complement each other. Just a few additional slides to illustrate large supplies of polymetallic sulfides of the Marita Mountains in the Sea of Okhotsk. You can see huge construction from barium sulfide. This is an active seeping area with high concentration of deep water organisms, depending on chemosynthetic activity of bacterial symbionts, and with rather rich biodiversity around the mountains. You can see many deep water organisms living in symbiotic relationships with hemaautotrophic bacteria. Interesting is that these small tubes you can see on this picture also make tubes from barium sulfide. It's a foraminiferous or forams from the genus Paticipum. It's also very good food supply for many deep water organisms, and deep water forams produce very interesting polyunsaturated fatty acids also. Our robotics spent many times to watch behavior and feeding activity of many interesting deep water organisms in these environments. I would like to make some comments of what you can see on this picture. It's very, very interesting elements of behavior. The picture above, on the left, you can see shrimp having symbiotic bacteria on the legs. These bacteria need methane, and shrimp put legs with bacteria in the area with methane seeping. So bacteria grow up very well, and shrimp eat this bacteria like you when you eat shashlik. You know, Russian word, meat on the thin stick. You can see how different animals hunting for each other. These creatures are also very interesting. It's a predatory sea animals. They hunting for small crustaceans, and looks very similar to Venus flytrap. You know this green plant, Venus flytrap, also hunting for insects. But this is not plant, it's animal. And this animal has very similar way of hunting. This is very funny creature. It's a sea cucumber with a number of floral tentacles. The top of every tentacles branch like my hand with fingers. And this side is sticky, and sea cucumber just touch by these fingers sea floor, and food particles, mainly detritus, are collected to this sticky surface, and after that, sea cucumber eats this detritus. You also see some pictures of carnivorous or predatory sponges. You know, sponges filtering organisms, but it's mainly shallow water sponges. Many of deep water sponges, predators, they hunting for different crustaceans, but at the same time, some crustaceans, like these amphipods, live in symbiotic relationships with this very unusual deep water sponge. This is female of deep sea octopus hatching eggs. She don't eat at all and died after hatching her juveniles. Can you imagine how many time needs this female octopus to keep these eggs before hatching, about 1 year. It's a deep environment, many process moves very slowly. And this octopus lived about 5 years only. It's a prolongation of his life. And 1 year we will spend with eggs. Don't eat and die after eating. Also, this area have many very important commercial fish species. And for instance, when you dive or snorkeling and would like catch different fishes, they afraid you. When we use special robotics, fish don't afraid, and you can even touch the fishes. And by this way you get very unique information about the behavior, feeding activity, reproduction, and so on. I should say that this area is, sulfide Arita Mountains, situated very close to the Sakhalin Island, where we have so-called vast population of gray whales. We monitor food supply of this population of gray whales within the last 20 years. And it's also the reason maybe to protect this deep water mountains, because this area is used for gray whales. You can see huge supplies of food resources for gray whales on the seafloor near the Sakhalin Island. Maybe you know that gray whales feed at the bottom by benthic organisms. They don't filter in water in water column. They feed from the bottom. And because a special program of photo identification of these gray whales, we already calculated about 320 specimens, and every specimen has its own passport with all morphometric characters. Because of different drawings on the skin, the individual identification of gray whales is possible. And one more very important point. The Sea of Okhotsk harbor large supplies of hydrocarbons, including oil. We found the marine creatures capable of being quite accurate via indicators of oil deposits. Tube worm, the Babylonida have a special organ, trophoson, filled with symbiotic chemoautotrophic bacteria, which use methane for chemosynthesis. The distribution of these worms in the Sea of Okhotsk well overlap with explored oil deposits, and some other deep-water organisms also can be used as excellent indicators of oil and gas supplies in the deep sea. And finally, very briefly how to explain this very high biodiversity in the deep of the Northwest Pacific. Firstly, very high photosynthetic primary production of phytoplankton on the surface, providing enough rain or snowing of organic matter even to the abyss. Also, this area is with high hydrothermal activity, and there are many cold seeps on the seafloor, also providing additional primary production by chemosynthetic bacteria. Regular upwelling and available abyssal currents provide high oxygenation of deep water. It's also very helpful to keep a high biodiversity in the depths. The epidemic situation seems to be improved. And now the time comes back to our practical cooperation in deep sea exploration in the Northwest Pacific. The huge water area of our mutual interest and importance. Thank you. Okay, my presentation was 53 minutes, so we have 7 minutes for questions.
So, please ask the questions, because after this part we'll have a short break, and then we'll have a more special lecture, as far as I understand, a little bit more specialized lecture. So, do you have questions for now? You can use any language you want out of the screen. Don't be shy. Take a chance to ask questions.
Есть ли какая-то определенная группа животных, которые сделаны больше научных открытий, чем другие?
Is there any special group of deep seawater animals that contributed to science more? So, with which the amount of scientific research was more impressive?
На самом
Здесь не все понимают по-русски.
Actually, there are a lot of separate findings and collections of different marine organisms from the abyss, mainly sea cucumbers, deep water sea urchins, deep water sea stars. But the exploration of ecosystem and description of biodiversity with the study of ecosystem, collecting specimens using special robotics that provide you specimens in excellent condition. It's possible only within the last maybe 10 or 15 years. Because if you use usual deep water trawling and take animals from the abyss, bring them on the deck of your ship, animals, most of them broken or in very bad conditions, because great difference in pressure and load play from the seafloor to the surface. If you have robotics, you can very carefully collect every species, put them in special boxes of this machine, and bring in excellent conditions from the deck. Maybe you know the very famous research vessel MSU-BIT, now situated in Museum of the World Ocean in Kaliningrad. So we spent many times from about 1949 to 1966 by deep-water trawling in the Northwest Pacific. But most of these collections were used to describe several hundred new species. But just 4 expeditions using robotics collect several times more species than research vessel during period time of 50 years, just by trawling. So, if shortly answer to your questions, sea cucumbers, sea urchins, sea stars, the Stimatiferum, giant worms from hydrothermal activity areas, pogonophores. Maybe these groups are more investigated.
For practical, for economic, for economical, because what you mentioned is a biological value, scientific value, and for economic value.
For economic, in Russia, the deepest commercial fishing in the Northwest Pacific at the depth 2.5 kilometers, mainly so-called mackerels, red tail fish, and maybe the deepest fishing in Russia. Some countries also fishing about at these depths, but mainly we have fish resources from very thin layer of so-called eutelagic area. But huge resources we have in mesopelagic and bathypelagic and even in abyssal area. But there are no methods, still there are no good methods to collect fish, methods to catch fish at the depths in bathypelagic and abyssal areas. If we speak about bioresources for food supplies, if we speak about some species we can use to get biologically active compounds, it's just the beginning of this process. We found many of them to produce biologically active compounds, and some countries even arrange special expeditions. Not study biodiversity, not study ecosystem, but just to find and collect several species because they know about their biological activity. But it's just the beginning of exploration of seafloor for medical purposes. As for mineral resources, the deepest mining of minerals is about at 5 kilometers. About 5 kilometers. There are special robotics to mine at these depths.
My question is about the nuclear pollution. I will not Japan. I have seen a lot of the nuclear pollution. I want to know how to detect the nuclear pollution will impact the ocean and
Yeah, sometimes scientists speak about possible nuclear pollutions in the ocean, but I should say that ocean is a huge reservoir, very huge water reservoir, and those nuclear pollutions dissolved in this volume. Even after Fukushima accident, you know, when Fukushima happened, just 1 month after, we arranged one of our expeditions to the Okhotsk and Bering Sea, and especially move alongside our Kuril Islands to check nuclear fauna. We even checked some fishes. Nothing dangerous was found. Much more important, if you put on the sea floor, for instance, all nuclear submarines or something like this. But if you monitor this area, you can find more high nuclear fauna only in this place. So, ocean is still clean from this point of view. Microplastic is maybe more important problem if we speaking about total pollution of the world ocean. It's my opinion.
What about mutation rate? What do you think? If we locally put some radioactive material into the water, maybe local animals they could it
Yes, I agree, and somehow research institutions monitor water area, for instance, around Novaya Zemlya. It's a name of Arctic archipelago in the Russian Arctic. And some countries also monitor some areas with this problem. But I don't know exactly about rate of mutations in this area. Mutations happen very often, and of course, in this areas mutation could be much more often. But I cannot explain it more carefully. It's not my field.
Can you tell me your opinion about how old is the modern deep sea fauna?
There are 2 points of view. Deep sea fauna is very old, and alternative point of view, deep sea fauna is pretty young. I suppose the second point of view, of course, deep sea fauna is pretty young, and marine creatures, many taxa of marine creatures originally appear in historical periods at shallow water areas. And after that, they move to the deep, and also they move on the land. So in my opinion, it's pretty young.
from the point of view.
Yeah, from the point of view.
So, other questions?
Здравствуйте. Вопрос, каким образом осуществляется сохранение экосистем при активной добыче подводных полезных ископаемых?
How to say ecosystems when you have mining, underwater mining?
For instance, maybe you know, in the middle of the Pacific, there is a huge area named Clarion Clipperton, with very large supplies of
organoids and models at depths 5.5 kilometers. According to the international rules, because it's an open area, there are no any national jurisdictions. According to international rules, if you're going to explore mineral resources, and of course, if you apply for using of these resources, you should arrange ecological researchers to study these deep sea ecosystems and estimate how unique this biodiversity. It's nothing unique. This area would be mining. If there's a unique ecosystem like coral gardens, for instance, you cannot do it. And now also it's just the beginning. Also, scientists and some countries discuss arrangement of protected area, not in your own terrestrial water, territorial water or economic water, but also in so-called international region of the world ocean. The huge protected area, for instance, was arranged in the Ross Sea in the Antarctic, about 1.15 million square kilometers. Huge area, but it's just the beginning also. It's very, very important questions because not my generation, but your generation will decide what to do in local points of the ocean where you find a large supply of mineral resources. But usually at the same time, here you have hotspots of biodiversity, some unique ecosystem, or like a imperial reach. We use this area for fishing. So the choice: fishing, protect, or mining. It's a chain of giants. Maybe some of them would be announced as protected area. Maybe some of them would be used for mining. It's a special investigation we should do before make decision. So,
Thank you. So just a moment, Bruce. Okay.
I actually have two questions. Because the first one is that at present, from a perspective, we know really fragile about marine biology. So what can we do to pave the way for the large scale of drug developing based on marine biology, and what about the marine bioengineering? And the second question is that, I want to ask about your opinion about how the artificial intelligence can plays a role in the development of marine biology. Thank you.
I already told in my presentation that now many large pharmaceutical companies have a special interest to get new biologically active compounds from the abyss, especially for construction new medicals to treat cancer diseases. And these companies by financially support the arrangement of some deep water expeditions. So, as I quite catch what you mean, it's how companies can
Как искусственный интеллект, как может быть использован
uh,
в морской природе.
It's difficult to think how we can use artificial intellect in deep sea biology. But
you know, we have developed some
program for
automatic calculation and identification of some marine creatures. For instance, when you watch many sea stars on the sea floor, there's special program automatically calculate these animals because machine can very easily recognize the shape of these animals. Also, we have some automatic system to combine pictures. If you make many pictures, always very difficult to correctly combine all of them to get as large as we need picture, for instance, of the sea floor. There are special programs that also automatical to put all photographs of ROV, to put all of them together with excellent quality. You cannot find any differences, and you can get picture as much as possible, as much as you need of the sea floor. Also, there's special program when this machine use a so-called laser scale. 5 lasers provide you a lot of linear sizes of marine creature, many of them. And even if this animal has a very complicated micro relief, laser system can estimate all these micro relief patterns and give you exactly what is the volume of this creature. If you know the volume and you know the density of this material, you can estimate biomass without taking this organism off from the water. So you can all of them calculate on this huge picture produced by this machine and get information about the biomass of all these animals. It also could be done automatically.
such example of using artificial intelligence.
First off, I want to appreciate your very effective presentations on all these beautiful and high resolution images. Here is my question: is with the climate changing recent years, the extinction of I think all the animals in all ecosystems are really accelerated. So, and how do
cases, the rate or speed of extinctions are much more than, or exceed the rate of description of new species. It's happened because sometimes we lost ecosystem. For instance, if we lost one part of tropical rainforest, many thousand species of small insects never been found and described. They disappear. It's a real life, as I already said. We never been able to describe all species on the globe, and we lost a lot of them without maybe descriptions. Especially, we know about it using examples of terrestrial ecosystem. Even their calculation, how many species, for instance, beetles can be lost if we cut some trees of separate species of plants. For instance, when Pan-American highway was made, the estimation was maybe 1 square kilometer of tropical rainforest. If we cut 1 square kilometer of tropical rainforest, we have lost several thousand of insects still undescribed. I cannot give any comments how many species of deep water organisms we lost if we destroy, for instance, one coral garden or sponges meadows. But the problem is exists. We should be mentally ready that the real biodiversity will never be described. It's a fact. Of course, we will lose some ecosystems, and of course, we will lose many thousands of species still undescribed. Let's plan our researches. Let's try and make a right choice when we decide what to do to use this ecosystem for mineral resources, for biological resources, or just to keep as a hot spot of biodiversity. It needs researchers for make like this again.
Thank you. We have time for one short question, before one, because otherwise we'll have, I think that we'll have to make a little break just to drink some water, and then we will resume with a more special lecture. Okay, so a very brief one. Igor, can I also ask you why you don't use English? Just because you said that I can use
any language, so I thought that...
Okay, yes, I think that...
Можете ли сказать, есть ли какие-то особенные для глубоководных, особенные глубоководные экологические проблемы? Is there any specific deep sea ecological problems, specifically for deep sea bacteria?
For deep sea, and the depth 9 kilometers. We found a lot of artificial garbage from fishing, from military, from many others. Maybe some of ecological problems may be connected with deep water trawling when we fishing using a deep water trawler. And if we mining, maybe this ecological deep sea mining and deep sea trawling.
Okay, so now we'll have a very brief break, and after that we will resume the next very interesting part of this meeting. Thank you. So let us meet here in 5 minutes. In 5 minutes time.
More local area, Russian price global warming, actually it's a real challenge to the sustainability of human life. The effects of this climate change are dramatic decrease in the Arctic ice cover, glacier melting, rising from sea level about 3.2 millimeters per year, extreme weather events, global increase of seawater surface temperature about 0.17 Celsius degree per decade. Also problem of acidification of the ocean. And as a result, changes in biodiversity and natural ecosystems. Of course, we mostly speak about climate changes in the Arctic, mainly because of these changes in Arctic more visualized. So there is ice, no ice. We are talking about warming, about global warming. But I will show you more dramatical climate changes than we usually describe in the Arctic Ocean. But firstly about Arctic. On this map, you can see a blue line. Blue line is a boundary of ice in the period of time from 1917 to about 2010. And red line show average ice cover since 2012. You can see that ice cover is reduced maybe about twice. It's in a warm period of time in the Arctic. As I already said, these changes well visualized because of evidence decrease, and you can see evidence decrease of ice cover within the last few decades. On other pictures you can see Gerald Island. Gerald Island is a small island situated close to the Wrangel Islands. This red arrow indicates Wrangel Island in the Chukchi Sea. Why I tell you about Wrangel Island? It is the largest maternity house for polar bears, but I call them marine bears, because Latin name of white bear Ursus maritimus. Maritimus mean marine. In our expedition in September or October 2016, we didn't find any ice about Gerald Island and most part of Randall Island. It's a terrible situation for white bears. You can see how these guys look unhappy and very sad. Why? Polar bear usually hunting from ice, hunting for seals. Also, I already said that Gerald and Brandon are maternity home for polar bears. About 500 bear layers are situated on Brandon Island, and about 100 bears layers are situated on the Gerald Island. But the distance between island and ice too large for young babies, for cubs to swim. Adult male can swim, female with cubs not. Because of this fact, now we have many white bears on the continental seashore. These bears visit small villages and try to find sell food at garbage places. Firestone seals play, as I already told you in present presentation, play a very important role in the economy of Russian Federation. Up to 80% of all fish and seafood in our country are caught in these seals. Because any changes, any climate changes in this area are very important, and we try to monitor these changes very carefully. This is just to illustrate you so-called global warming in terrestrial environments in the Arctic region. If we analyze only terrestrial environment, okay, we see the most dramatic changes exactly in the Arctic area. In the Russian Far East, terrestrial or climate changes on the land much less prominent. But if we analyze surface of ocean, the most dramatic changes not in the Arctic, but in the water areas in the Northwest Pacific, and especially prominent in the Sea of Japan. I use the data of Japan Meteorological Agency. It's the data for a very long period of time, more than 100 years. And on the picture on the right, you can see very prominent changes, about 2 Celsius degree. 2 Celsius degree increasing of water surface temperature in the Sea of Japan. It's really huge for water area. Chinese water area, I mean Yellow Sea and East China Sea, are also under very prominent climate change if we analyze surface water temperature. Within this long period of time, we can find more short period of most prominent global warming, and we see, for instance, within 25 years, from 80s to the first decade of current century. These changes may be estimated as about 1 Celsius degree for the sea of Japan. And also you can see that these changes in the Arctic not so prominent as for the Far Eastern Sea. But we mainly speak about Arctic because it's well visualized. In the Far Eastern Seas, we can check and watch these changes using more careful analysis of biodiversity and some changes in marine ecosystems. I will illustrate you some examples. There is one more method to estimate global changes, global climate changes. It's an estimation of ocean heat column. This picture, you also see that in the Northwest Pacific, more dramatic changes happen in the Sea of Japan. Why this sea is very interesting for our researchers? It's a unique water area with a mixture of cold and warm currents. And in this water area, we can find warm water species which can move to the sea through Tsushima Strait. But if we dive more deeper, we can find representatives of Arctic fauna, which enter this area from the north. I also should say that global climate changes increase the effect of regional and local climate factors, which results in the mosaic pattern of temperature fluctuation. So it's no big sense to speak about global changes. The changes most evident and most prominent at the local level. For instance, just the Peter's Great Bay, it's the largest bay of the Sea of Japan. You remember this complicated combination of cold and warm currents. Blue cycle is Peter's Great Bay, where, for instance, Vladivostok city is situated. So you can see that in different parts of this bay, we can find different changes of average annual temperature. Up to 1 Celsius degree higher, and even less. Within the 15 years, in the east part of this bay, temperature decreased, not increased, but decreased, because cold current became more active, and warm current also became more active. And it's a local mosaic provides us very interesting information how the global warming can be illustrated in different environments. You can see how large this bay is. It's a huge water area, more than 55,000 square kilometers, with a very, very long coastal line. According to meteorological data, over the last 60 years, the average temperature in Peter's Great Bay has increased by almost 0.6 Celsius degree. But we know that 0.6 Celsius degree, composite of increasing of water temperature and even decreasing water temperature. It's a very mosaic picture at the local level. These changes cause a reduction of the optimal temperature regime of many valuable cold water species, and hence force them to migrate for spawning into colder water, thereby leading to the loss of fishery potential in some water areas. For instance, there is a northward displacement of the main centers of reproduction of Far Eastern salmons. Now we catch more salmon at Kamchatka rivers. 7 years ago, the most productive area for salmon was at Sakhalin. There has been a change in the abundant status of the major commercial fish species. For instance, belly pollock, haiflin, herring, saffron cod, and some flounder species, flounder or flatfish. At the same time, there is a northward migration of not only individual species, but of complexes of the southern species. Substantial changes occur in the ratio of native fish species to migrant species. If the existing climatic trends persist, the southern migrant species will come to play an increasingly greater part in local fishery. Such species as needlefish, gizzard shad, Japanese half-beak, Japanese anchovy, striped mullet have become more common on the Primorye region fish market. It was 1 or 2 decades, it was not possible. But now these subtropical fishes are very common on regional fish market. This is a picture from a satellite. You can see, recognize the west part of the Sea of Japan, and blue cycle indicate the Peter's Great Bay. We can see a combination of cold water, it's a blue color, and big masses of hot water can also enter this area from the south. What is the main ecological problems connected with impact of climate changes? First one, changes in biodiversity and shallow water landscapes. Next one, depletion of fish stocks in some areas due to regional and local climate changes. Next one, biological invasions. Transfer with ballast water, biofouling, rafting with currents and floating garbage, appearance of some dangerous species, and also toxicological safety of marine areas and seafood. It's a problem of harmful algal blooms in our water areas. I will try to illustrate all of these ecological problems. Fauna of fish in the Russian area of the Sea of Japan is estimated about 400 species. Totally in the Sea of Japan you can find about more than 1,000 species. But most part of fishes known from Russian water area were found in Peter's Great Bay. 1/3 of them, more than 100 species, are designated as southern migrants. What it means? They appear only in warm period of time. They move from Yellow Sea, East China Sea, and it's 1/3 of total ichthyofauna in this area. Within the last 30 years, about 20 subtropical and tropical species of fish new for Russian waters have been recorded in the bay. Some of the species you can see on this slide. Some seasonal migrants are pretty dangerous. Maybe you remember in 2011 we had several shark attacks in our water area. I took delivery of the great white shark, and you can see just burned video of great white on my hands. Unfortunately, this fish was died. What it meant? The great white enter Peter the Great Way not only for hiking for our seals, but for reproduction. It was never fixed before, and great white sharks now enter our water area to give birth. Some of very dangerous migrants, for instance, blue pointers. Some people were wounded, and we analyzed these attacks and found pieces of teeth in this wood and were able to identify species. A lot of other solar migrants. Within the last few decades, we got several species of sea turtles, sea snakes, and huge jellyfish. It's a pretty famous photo of Nemopilema nomurai. It's the largest jellyfish in the world, diameter up to 2.5 meters, and weight about 200 or 250 kilo. Now it's a real problem in the Chinese waters. And quite recently, when I was in Japan, in Kasunazawa, I also found this problem in Japan. The species and the Japanese water area, not yet in Peter the Great Way, but within a few years, it's obligatory happening. In our water area, we have another pretty large southern migrant. It's Ropilema asamushi. It's a huge jellyfish of this side. It's eatable jellyfish, pretty popular, as I know, in China. Now it's the most common jellyfish in summertime in our water area. Even flyfish enter our cold water area in summertime because of activation of some warm currents. But some of these migrants are really beautiful creatures, and for divers, the situation even much better, because when you dive for snorkeling, you can see some subtropical and tropical organisms. You don't need to go to the south to tropical area to dive in South China or in Vietnam. You can dive in summertime, in Peter the Great Way, and see some pretty exotic and beautiful creatures. The problem of ballast water. With ballast water, about 7,000 marine species are distributed over the world ocean. Billions and billions ballast water are transported by ships from one climate region to another one. You can see some larvae of invertebrates in ballast water of tanker, for instance, Minotaurs. We chose some some ships from Chinese, Japanese, and Korean lines, and for a long time we monitor ballast water from these countries. Already about 60 sea introduced species have been presently recorded for the Russian Far East. In Petersburg Bay, 56 species have been identified as invasive species, and 17 of them are fouling, biofouling organisms. It's very informative picture. You can see that most of invasive species found in native ecosystems are situated in the vicinity of two large ports in the Russian Far East, Vladivostok and Nakhodka. Some biofouling organisms, the biofouling within the 20 last years, the biomass of fouling organisms, average biomass of fouling organisms, have increased from just several kilo up to 20 kilo per square meters, because large mollusks and pretty large tunicates. Tunicates, first of all, Morgula, Manhidensis, and Zoona savigny. I think these fouling organisms are also pretty common in Chinese waters. This is a bottom of our small research vessel after 4 months. Before 4 months, the bottom was clean, and after 4 months, we make a picture, and you see that most surface is covered by fouling crustaceans, Ceripenia crustaceans. Also, some invasive species brought by with ballast water in our water area can survive in local spots in the vicinity of thermal stations, even tropical and subtropical species, because the water temperature in these local areas several higher than in adjacent water area. As I already told you, the most heavy biofouling organisms of this size with a biomass of several kilo are tunicates, Zoona savigny and Morgula manhidensis. Rafting. Many species we got by rafting with marine garbage. It's a Ceripedian crustacean, mainly Balanus, Antibalanus, or Lepas. This is a very interesting story. You know Fukushima accident in March 2011. Million tons of different garbage appear in the ocean alongside Japanese coastline, and this garbage moved via North Pacific currents to the east. And exactly after 2 years, all this garbage moving several times over the cycle current reached American coast of Oregon and Washington states. And this small fish boat was found on Oregon beach. This is Japanese boat. In this boat, there's special small tank, and this tank was filled with water, with many fouling organisms, and some species, Oplegnathus, it's a strict Oplegnathus, it's Indo-Pacific tropical and subtropical fish, pretty common in Japanese waters and also common in Russian waters, Peter of the Great Way, were developed during this trip from caviar, from eggs to adult specimens. Most of these creatures were fired because American pretty much afraid by invasion. But one specimen was moved to Oregon Aquarium. And you can see how this Japanese fish boat looks like. Being 100% covered with hundreds of kilos of biofouling organisms. This is a very informative example. There is a method of so-called rapid assessment. If we would like to analyze any changes, ecological changes in communities somewhere, you can collect international team of different taxonomies, put them together, bring to this point, for instance, biological station or something like this, and they try to collect as many as possible species, identify them, and compare with previously known results. Such method was used in 2011 on our biological station at the Boston Bay. It's also in the Peter the Great Bay. It was an international team of taxonomists. And just one example. During this rapid assessment, we found 103 species of arthropods. Arthropods, it's a pretty small crustaceans, but very common. It's very common food for many fishes. In previous estimation, in 1948, it was found 80 species of amphipods. First impression, okay, 180 amphipods, okay, that's okay. But when the same taxonomists who previously described the species in 80s compare species collected in 2011, only 9 species present in both lists. Only 9 species present in both lists. So the fauna of this crustacean completely changed. But you can find these changes only if we arrange so careful taxonomic investigations. Maybe it's not so important, 100 of this species, 100 of this species. No, it's very, very important, because in many commercially valuable species, young fish use as a main food supply only separate species of invertebrates. Several species of nematodes, several species of polychaetes, several species of amphipods. But if the fauna change, so there are changes in food supplies, and suddenly you can find that fish supplies dramatically decreased. What is the reason? Or maybe pollution, or maybe we catch too much. No, it's just changes, small changes in food supplies. And small fishes, or living of fishes, can feed only on several species of several taxa of vertebrates. Another example is very interesting for me because I have visiting this station every year within maybe about 40 years. 40 years ago, the fauna of hermit crabs was estimated about 10 or 11 species. During this rapid assessment, and after, in 2014, 2015, we also found about 11 species of hermit crabs. But the situation was very interesting. Species dominated now and collected in 2014, 2015 has been never found within benthic assessment in 17th or 19th. So when I was on this station 14 years ago, it was much different species of hermit crabs. But for common people, and even for scientists who are not specialists in hermit crabs, everything okay. No changes in form, but species much different. And you can find these differences only if you arrange a taxonomic research. Harmful algal blooms. It's a real problem now in the North West Pacific. It's a problem for China, it's a problem for Japan, for Russia, and for the United States, in the North Pacific. Within the last few decades, several times more intensive harmful algal blooms alongside the Kamchatka Peninsula, alongside Sakhalin Island, and also in our Peter the Great Lake. You can see the main harmful algal species in this list. I just give you some example of most common harmful algal blooms in our water areas. It's a Vladivostok city. It's a bloom quite recently last summer, intensive bloom of Heterosigma akashiva. This species produce ichthyotoxins, very dangerous for invertebrates and fishes, and also for salmons. This is most common toxic species of dinoflagellates. It's scanning electron micrographs of most common species, including Alexandrium, which produced very dangerous toxins, saxitoxin. This beautiful harmful algal bloom also in the center of our city, but this bloom is caused by non-toxic species of dinoflagellates, Noctilucas and Hirons. What is new with harmful algal blooms? Now we have them even in winter time, under ice. You can see dynamics of harmful blooms of Noctiluca scintillans. We have these blooms from the beginning of the year, and we have also this bloom time when we fix under ice harmful algae blooms in our water area. It's interesting picture. It's a yellow dye, but of course not by algae, but by pollen from coniferous trees. And this pollen is food for predatory dinoflagellate Noctiluca subtilis. So sometimes bloom of Noctiluca is connected with previous bloom of pollen from coniferous trees. Also some pictures of Noctiluca and some estimations of density of cells. Now, the most important part of my talk. How dangerous could be some species of microalgae we found in our water area that you also have in your water area? Dinoflagellates of Dinophysus genus, we have several species in our water area, produce okadaic acid named DSP, diarrheic syndrome. DSP means diarrheic syndrome. This toxin acts on the enzymes and causes acute gastroenteritis. When you eat seafood with these toxins, you always get acute gastroenteritis. People usually feel themselves very sad, and here you can see what exactly you feel: pain in the stomach, and head ache, and temperature also would increase, and it is a chemical formula of okadaic acid. The most dangerous Alexandrium toxin. Alexandrium produces saxitoxin, or PSP, it means paralytic syndrome. Saxitoxin acts on the nervous system and causes sodium channel blockade. This is a terrible picture. It's a beach on Chukotka, covered with hundreds and hundreds died walruses, which got this paralytic toxin from mollusks. Mollusks are filtering seawater and can get many cells of Alexandrium with toxins. It's not dangerous for shell, but if sea mammals or human eat this shell, by the way, walruses feed mainly on shells, they can get toxins and die. What is the most dangerous? The most dangerous is that many of these species, for instance, Alexandrium, produce small sleeping stages, which can sleep in the seawater for many years, up to 20 or 30 years. And one day, suddenly, you get blue billions and billions of stages appear from sleeping cells, and you have a lot of active cells in the water column. And here you can see concentration of cysts of dangerous dinoflagellate algae, Alexandrium catenella, in our water area. You can see a huge dynamic within the last few decades, and these calculations were made by our scientific center of marine biology, and we have a special department named Marine Biolab, where we keep all specimens of all harmful algae and material to identify of toxins by genetic and biochemical methods. It's a completely automatic biobank with a higher level of robotics. Toxic microalgae even enter Arctic ecosystem with currents and now can survive even in Arctic waters. High concentration of toxins, I already saw you, saxitoxin and diuretic acid, were found in zooplankton, in benthic invertebrates and marine fish and mammals within the Arctic site. Saxitoxins, it was found by our scientists, but also found our colleagues from American side. Saxitoxins is mainly produced by cyst dinoflagellate Alexandrium catenella. Warming of surface water in the Chukchi Sea facilitate the transition of sleeping cyst to vegetative plankton stages. Very important. Increasing temperature of inflowing deep water in Chukchi Sea for 2 or 4 Celsius within the last 2 decades. Increased rate of cyst germination 2 times and accelerate by 20 days time for inoculation of cells in the euphotic layer. So, this picture is dyed viruses with a high resolution. Unfortunately, the frequency and intensity of toxic algal groups have increased and may cause mass mortality of different marine mammals, not only viruses. For instance, all 13 major virus rockeries in North Kamchatka and Chukchi Peninsula have this problem, and the number of viruses decreased from 12 or 15,000 to 3 or 5,000 individuals in 2003, 2004. But without virus hunting, only because of high concentration of toxins. On the other side, it's a very good time for buying bears. No ice, no way hunting for seals, but a lot of food on the seashore. You can see that families of white bears eat this huge biomass of died viruses. Next group is very dangerous microalgae is diatomic. Diatoms, mainly of Pseudonychia genus, produce ASP. ASP is an amnesic, so-called amnesic toxin. It's domoic acids and some compounds from domoic acids. This toxin acts on brain and cause memory loss. Sometimes we found many marine mammals who lost orientation and died on the seashore. Even it was one time when, not on the Russian coast, in California, within a short period of time, about 400 sea lions perished after getting this toxin. They lost orientation and died. You can see some died whales and California sea lion. We can take a piece of tissue from stomach, gut, or from brain to identify toxins and can tell that these animals perished after poisoning. We try to inform people, even common people, about dangerous toxic microalgae and make such pictures for common people with explanation of different symptoms. But now I would like to tell some words about brevitoxins. Brevitoxins produced by dinoflagellates of Carenia genus. It's a neurotoxic shellfish poison. Maybe some of them know about massive perish of marine biota in Kamchatka in September, October 2020. It was a huge harmful algal bloom caused by Carenia. It was first time when Carenia caused such a huge harmful algal bloom. It's many thousands of square kilometers alongside both east and west coastline of Kamchatka. As you see the color of seawater caused by Carenia. When we watch this from satellite and compare pictures of 2020, 2019, we found that this huge development of Carenia species very prominent on both sides of Kamchatka. It's an estimation of concentration of chlorophyll A. We were able to get pure culture of all these microalgae and genetically analyze taxonomy and check this information with available genetic banks in Japan. And we also were able to find brevitoxins in diet specimens. It was very characteristic that mainly sea urchins on bottom species were perished. You see the bald sea urchin. Usually, after these toxins, sea urchins died and lost most of fins. Also, when they died, tortoises and so on. So, how the beaches look like after this huge harmful algal bloom. It was, as I already told you, it was the first time when we got a massive bloom of Carenia, and it was connected with a huge increase of average surface water temperature in this time in this water area, up to several Celsius degrees. And very interesting thing, you see next year it was bloom, also caused by Carenia salliformis. This is absolutely the same species, but in Japan and east coast of Hokkaido. At the same time, we saw from our satellites that there is a concentration of bloom in our water area. But when we analyze this situation, we found that in Japan it was caused by Karenia salniformis, and salmon farms and sea urchin farms lost all animals, all salmon on farms and all sea urchins on farms perished. There is a special problem when we analyze a very complicated spectrum from satellite, this information about sea surface. We can find pieces of spectrum which help us even to identify what species produces a huge amount of chlorophyll if it's from satellite. It was because we have a pure culture of this microalgae. We gave this material to our physics, and they analyzed this microalgae and get special spectrum, and then identify this spectrum in satellite information. When we analyzed, we understood that in Japan it's a toxic Karenia salniformis. When we analyzed picture from satellite about Sakhalin, it was caused by non-toxic species, and we were not worried at all. It means that now we have some technologies to identify even species of toxic algae based only on satellite information. So what to do if we have so many ecological problems, and also you have the same problems in your water areas? First of all, we need joint efforts in the inventory of marine biodiversity. Monitoring of bottom landscapes and coastal ecosystem under climate changes in the Northwest Pacific. I already show you how important to study biodiversity. Not only for fun, not only describe more and more new species. It's necessary to understand the real impact of climate changes. Estimate how it could be dangerous for commercially valuable species. How it's dangerous for your business when you develop aquaculture, when you develop salmon farms, or sea urchin farms, mollusk farms. Because one day, suddenly, you can lose all your business if you don't monitor this situation. Why we should study biodiversity? If I already told, real biodiversity will never be described. To find new biological active compound. So, green pharmacology maybe in the near future will be replaced by blue pharmacology. New drugs, new medicals, new antibacterial compounds will come from the deep sea. And we need to develop international cooperation in environmental transboundary problems. I already showed you how close Russian coastline and American coastline is the Bering Sea. And sometimes we watch huge harmful algal blooms covering both water areas, our and America. And it's impossible to make analysis of this event separately. Cooperation in toxicology, safety and control of food chains in transboundary and adjacent waters. And cooperation of taxonomies in rapid assessment of biodiversity changes in coastal localities. No one country has enough taxonomies, and to arrange very effective rapid assessment, we need a real cooperation. When we made it in 2011, we got people maybe from 5 or 6 countries, because no one country has enough taxonomies for main taxa of invertebrates to make correct estimation. These are real changes in communities of invertebrates or fishes. So, thank you.
So, now I have time for questions.
Why is deep sea animals are so big? Is it because the absence of predators, or maybe because of unique metabolic parts?
No, there is a big marine creatures, deep water organisms, but also a lot of very small. For instance, very rich meiofauna. It's really small animals which have in uppermost layers of marine sediments. What are the largest deep-water creatures? For instance, deep-water polar shark, up to 5 meters long. Sometimes huge coral trees, like a parabordia, up to 3 meters high. Deep-water fishes, commercially valuable species, not so big. For instance, tuna fish, much larger. No, I cannot say like this.
My question was mostly about invertebrates.
Invertebrates, yeah, they're really huge deep-water invertebrates, like a spider crab, Japanese spider crab, up to 3.5 meters from one point of lake to another point of opposite lake. It's difficult to say. It's depend of food. It's depend of food supplies. If enough food supplies, it would be rather large stationaries. It's very difficult to find exact explanation why some representatives of one taxa larger in the deep, but in some other taxa, some representatives much larger in shallow water. For isopods, yes, the largest isopods up to 40 centimeters are found in the abyss. The largest crab, yes, is found in the abyss. The largest orchids, no, the largest worms. It's different for different taxa. If we analyze different taxa, we can find different situations. So if you tell me exactly what taxa we analyze, I can
I was thinking
try.
about sea cucumbers.
Sea cucumbers. Also not exactly. The largest shallow water sea cucumbers I saw in the Caribbean this size, 50 centimeters. In the Russian forests, the largest would be Umaria euconica. It's like a ball for rugby, exactly the same size. No, ball for rugby. Ball for rugby. Like an egg. No, the largest sea cucumbers not in the deep. Thank you.
us to do the research about the marine ecology. For example, if we wanted to find out or figure out what is the different we take some sample or take some bioindex, what we can do or what is the level we can to collect the bioindex and what organism can be regarded as the bioindex to measure the
Okay, let me, so, honestly, yes. Signal species, то есть это биоиндикация, биоиндикаторная организм, так
You mean deep water or totally?
deep water.
Deep water. Yeah, there are some deep water opening which could be pretty interesting bioindicators. I already show you example with pogonophorans, which now considered as a separate taxa of polychaetes. It's a Xenophyllum family. They need methane for bacteria in tropic zone. And you know the methane will be different. For instance, if you have a lot of organic matter, you also will get a lot of methane because it's a chemical process with this organic matter. But also there is so-called deep seeping of methane from deep layers, which usually harbor supplies of gas or oil. And this forms, I could say like this. In every place on the globe where somewhere were found pogonophorans, after that was found in all. But it doesn't mean that if we have oil supply, we found oil supply, obligatory will be found pogonophorans. No. But if you found pogonophorans, you should carefully check the sediments for oil and gas supplies. Another bioindicators is a deep sea. It's a difficult question for me because I should think about it. Of course, I don't know all the important creatures. I don't
situation much different for different countries. Of course, I mainly speak about Russia because climate change is more evident because of ice in the Arctic Ocean, or permafrost in Siberia, or changes in fish fauna in the forest of the seas, and so on. Because of warming process, for instance, in Russia, we lost a huge area of permafrost. So, permafrost, you know, it's a deeply frozen soil for many, many years, for 100 years, for 1,000 years. So, in Siberia, the area where in summertime pretty warm, but the soil keep being frozen from cold time. And if we lose permafrost area, it would be not good for roads, for, I don't know, maybe to reach some oil factories or something like that. But in Russia we can get more land for agriculture. Our agriculture can move to north. So we will spend less money to keep our houses warm if global warming will be continuing. For other countries, the same as in previous question. Let's consider a separate country. For instance, for Russia, maybe the benefits will be not bad. For other countries, it would be dangerous because you have agriculture land, and if warming will continue, we will have desert. You lost agricultural potential. Let's analyze every separate countries, even separate areas of different countries.
What about the causes, причины глобального потепления?
There are a few main causes of global changes. First of all, tilt angle of Earth's axis. You know, axis of our Earth always change from 23 to 24. Now exactly 23.5. So because of these changes, Earth get slightly different amount of solar warmth. And this happened always in historical time. So the period of global warming, the period of more cold time. The next reason is solar fluctuations. So amount of warmth of solar depends on solar fluctuations. It's also almost happened. Greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect. Concentration of greenhouse gases in atmosphere was much more. For instance, many million years ago, concentration was much more than now. We always, our globe always lived in the period of warming, in the period when climate become more cold. Impact of human population in this process, I quite relatively not practical way to fighting with global warming. Let's spend money for adaptation to global warming. It's much more practical. Because global warming is real. We have no resources to change climate. It's my personal opinion. It's stupid to fight this climate. Let's adopt our economy, our mode of life to these changes.
Thank you. So, you have more questions?
Yeah. What is your opinion on the possibility to fight harmful algae blooms, maybe stop them or slow them down with some biocontrol measures or maybe in some other way?
It's a natural process, and it's very difficult to fight with natural processes. What we see now is the intensity and widespread of harmful blooms connected with climate changes. It's not practical way, as I already told you, fighting with climate changes. But if we have methods of effective control, like in the Russian Far East branch of Russian Academy was developed the methods how to identify group or even species of harmful algae using satellite information. It's very helpful. You analyze this information, oh, non-toxic bloom, that's okay, it's good. It's more organic matter, more primary production in the ocean. If it's a toxic species, okay, let's do something, let's stop eat mollusks or fish from agriculture farms and so on. Let's do something with seafood and so on. There are some methods to direct fighting with bloom. For instance, in several countries, if bloom is coming, not appear in this area, but just coming with current, people distribute in water billions of small pieces of clay. And piece of clay is adhesive for macroalgae cells. And after that, fall down to the bottom. So you can change the number of cells in this bloom. Not 100% protecting far, but greatly decrease number of toxic cells. But if you have such massive bloom like alongside Kamchatka, no chance to use so many places, so many ships and so many people to attract to this job. If it's a local bloom, okay, distribution of small pieces of clay.
Okay, thank you. So I have time for one short question.
I should already die.
A little bit tired, but at the same time, the second lecture was a little bit more complicated, complex. Okay, so then thank you very much for attending, and thanks once again to our professor for